what appears to be a huge flare coming from the side of the sun. But it isn't a flare at all. In fact, it's a massive UFO, so huge beyond the comprehension of anything we've seen before. The supposed UFO is at least 25 times the size of Earth. Welcome to the Paranormal Post. I'm Clayton Morris. If you love true stories of the unexplained, then go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps us here at the channel. And please subscribe. There's one more step you can do, which is to turn on that notification bell so you'll receive a notification whenever we publish a brand new video. Well, NASA is in a never-ending race to get the best pictures of the sun and the moon. They're analyzing them constantly, with the sun being the enormous bright ball of nuclear fusion. And many years were spent in crafting the perfect gadget to snap the best pictures that can physically be taken without being reduced to molten metal as close as they can get to the sun. The moon, however, we've got that. We have multiple pictures of it taken from all angles, so detailed that you can see every speck of dust on the surface of the moon. This, combined with the possibility of aliens that piqued the interest of humanity for centuries, has led many people to believe that we finally have proof. Finally, we have photographic proof around the sun. So in this video, I'm going to show you all of the strange objects that have been grazing the sun or the moon and were caught on NASA cameras. Let's start with the massive UFO that has been seen crossing the sun. The new missions follow on the great success of veteran shutterbugs, such as the Solar and Heliospheric Observatory, or SOHO, which is a spacecraft developed by NASA and the European Space Agency, the ESA, that has been taking groundbreaking photos of the sun since it launched in 1995. Now, by analyzing images from NASA's SOHO satellite, alien hunters believe they have spotted a huge UFO near the sun. Now, what appears to be a huge flare coming from the side of the sun is in fact a UFO. It's so huge, it's mind-blowing. I mean, beyond comprehension. According to prominent alien hunter Scott Waring, the supposed UFO is at least 25 times the size of Earth. Bernard Fleck, the SOHO project scientist and mission manager, has a simple response to all of this wild speculation of a Borg-like UFO, like in Star Trek, that's out in our solar system. He says this is, of course, complete and utter nonsense. Fleck said in an email, the black square is due to a missing, corrupted telemetry block. In other words, what he's saying here is this giant arc cube in the image is not an object at all, let alone a massive alien spaceship. He says it's an image artifact, a glitch in the picture itself, caused by what he says are transmission errors between SOHO and Earth. SOHO is located in a halo orbit about 1 million miles from Earth, and the images it sends to us across that distance understandably leak a few pixels from time to time. Now, those gaps are normally plugged in when the spacecraft resends its data. He says most missing blocks are indeed filled by our pipeline processing, but this doesn't always work, he said. He said not all missing blocks are filled correctly. He said the finals level 0 science data are not affected by this, so they're very common, he says. NASA shares the very latest SOHO images with the public in a frequently updated gallery. They go to their website and you can see them. These images are arriving fresh off light waves from space, which is why NASA warns that the data is intended just for visual inspection, not analysis, as it's not of science quality, they say. Right on the gallery website, you can see it there. So these missing blocks are common in new SOHO images, including the recent one taken on July 15th, that reignited the imagination of some UFO believers, myself included. Missing blocks are multiples of 32 times 32 pixels, which is the smallest unit of a telemetry block, he said. So even if only one byte was corrupted, a whole 32 by 32 block is then blacked out. And the blank pixels are not only imaging artifacts from SOHO that has attracted the attention of alien hunters, because in 2003, NASA posted an explainer video called How to Make Your Own UFO that outlined why SOHO images of completely natural phenomenon end up with features that resemble flying saucers, or can be enhanced to look like alien spacecraft. Ever since launch, there's been a number of people who've claimed to have seen flying saucers and other esoteric objects in these SOHO images, NASA said in a 2003 article. They said also that although some of these supposed pictures of UFOs can seem quite intriguing, they have always turned out to have a quite ordinary cause when examined by experienced SOHO scientists. However, writing on his blog UFO Sightings Daily, Mr. Waring said this video from HelioViewer actually has a massive cube-like UFO shoot past. He said this cube has a non-reflective black surface like a stealth fighter jet. It absorbs but does not reflect light. The cube is many times bigger than Earth itself. He says the cube is in the northern hemisphere of our sun. The cube is often seen coming and going from our sun. Amazing. These cubes might even live near the sun. They might be coming and going near the sun and are meant to be absorbing some sort of particles that we might not yet understand. These rare particles that could be powering these craft. A UFO is massive, and its shape is even on both sides, perfectly cubical. Waring says this really looks like an intelligently made craft. The UFO is actually seen twice by two different filters, one in black and one in white. And the UFO is about the size of the Earth's moon. So why didn't NASA alert the world about it? The size of our moon? Because they know it's not a meteor or an asteroid, he says. Waring also said that the sun actually belongs to aliens, as these advanced species are controlling this star in the solar system. He says either way, it's their sun, not ours. We don't have control over it as much as they will, and that alien species probably existed long before Earth existed. So what right do we have to claim the sun as our own, he said. This is not the first time that Waring is making unbelievable claims like this regarding alien existence. So are there really cubes circling the sun that are using particles for power in much the same way that we're using solar power here on Earth? Waring said a few months back that the Taiwanese researcher discovered some strange structures similar to human thigh bones from Martian images taken by NASA. After spotting these structures, Waring assured that the aliens are living in the red planet. Based on the similarities of these sightings, he believes the sun could be hollow and could even house an entire system of alien planets. Now, this hollow sun theory suggests that the extraterrestrial beings from those planets fly out through some gigantic doorway-like structure on the sun's surface. Waring also bizarrely claimed that the US government and NASA are covering up the truth regarding aliens and UFOs. He wrote that it's amazing that so many videos of UFOs exist, and yet the US government won't take any of it seriously. Well, they might be. Now, with a number of reports and having to release within 180 days of that stimulus package, a massive dump of files from the CIA and whatever the government knows about UFOs. So, are they deliberately hiding the truth from the public, he wondered? You know, this question about this object is it a meteor or an asteroid? A lot of people wonder if that's the case. There are hundreds of thousands of space rocks, which can be anything from a few centimeters to hundreds of miles long within our solar system. So it would not be a surprise if one of them was picked up in NASA images. Some scientists argue that this object is simply a piece of space dandruff that's floating around in front of the camera. Former NASA engineer James Oberg first popularized the phrase, stating space dandruff can be anything from tiny rocks to chips of paint, which might have fallen off of a rocket. Mr. Oberg said, "I've had enough experience with real spaceflight to realize that what's being seen in these many videos is nothing beyond the norm from the fully mundane phenomenon occurring in unearthly settings." He added, "The human brain is not programmed to make sense of tiny little objects floating around in zero gravity." According to Nathan Rich, the lead ground systems engineer in NLR's solar physics branch, he said the spaceship is merely a collection of streaks left by cosmic rays, charged particles from space, which whizzed through the camera's sensor as the image was taken. He says the streaks in question are consistent with energetic particles, also known as proton impacts on the camera lens. He said something which is apparent in just about every image, Rich said. He said those artifacts do not persist from image to image, proving they are momentary blips in the camera sensor rather than an actual object in the field of view. Some images taken by the LASCO 2 camera are swarming with artifacts, caused by particles zipping across the CCD in every direction. He said as cosmic rays pass through a camera's image sensor, it deposits a large amount of electric charge in the pixels that it penetrates. So if the particle passes through a shallow angle to the plane of the camera, it affects several pixels along its path. The result then is a bright streak on the image. So in the image in question, a burst of cosmic rays happens to hit the camera lens at just the right angle to create the form of a hinged spaceship. The boom arm that sticks out across the rows and columns of pixels. He said it's all been formed by cosmic rays just simply streaking through the camera sensor diagonally and at a shallow angle, depositing a huge charge in several pixels, he says. He said cameras on Earth are less susceptible to interference by charged particles from space because the Earth's protective magnetosphere blocks them from hitting the planet's surface. What do you think these images are? Simply anomalies hitting a camera's sensor? Or something more nefarious, like UFOs leaving the center of the sun? Drop me a comment below and be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time, everyone.